Welcome back. In this video we're going to identify perpendicular lines. Now if we wanted to find out which of these lines are perpendicular to one another, or for that matter any two lines that are perpendicular to one another, we could draw each one on a graph and look for the two lines that make a perfect 90-degree angle at their intersection. Okay, so it would look something like this. We have our graph of our Cartesian plane, and let's say we have a line 1 and line 2. Okay, so we have line 1 and line 2. And we want to know if these two lines are perpendicular. Well, this would actually be really time consuming to graph all 6 of these lines. And even then, we'd only be assuming that these two lines make a perfect 90-degree angle. Looks can be deceiving, and in mathematics, we don't want to assume anything such as this. So we need a rule for perpendicular lines like we had for parallel lines. For that, we just compared the slopes, and for parallel lines, if they have the same slope, then we know that they're parallel. Well, luckily for perpendicular lines, we have a similar rule having to do with their slopes, and the rule is that the two slopes of two perpendicular lines are going to be negative reciprocals of one another. So in mathematical terms, if we have the slope of line 2, and we call it m sub 2, that's going to equal the negative reciprocal of the slope of the line 1, the slope m sub 1. So the slope of line 2 is going to be the negative reciprocal of the slope of line 1. If that's so, then we have a perfect 90-degree angle, and these two lines are perpendicular. So if we're given two slopes, we can actually eyeball them and determine if they're negative reciprocals. And we can use, we have a different form we can use as a check. So if we multiply both sides by m sub 1, we get m sub 1 times m sub 2 equals a negative 1. So if we multiply two slopes together and it equals a negative 1, then that's a good check. That means our lines are perpendicular. So these two rules here, we can check to see two lines are perpendicular or not. So let's go ahead and look at a few. Now we can cancel out a couple pairs. If they have the same signs, that means that is indeed not going to be perpendicular. These two lines B and D have their slopes are reciprocals of one another. 3 over 2 is the reciprocal of 2 over 3, but they're not negative reciprocals because they both have the same signs. If we multiplied these two out, we would get a positive 1, and we want a negative 1 for them to be perpendicular to one another. Here, the slope 2 is the same as 2 over 1, and we have a 1 over 2 here, so let's go ahead and multiply these out to check because they might be perpendicular to one another. So we have 2, or 2 over 1, times minus 1 over 2, and let's see what that gives us. Well, we're multiplying a negative and a positive, which gives us a negative. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And that simplifies to minus 1, so that is indeed a pair of perpendicular lines. So the lines A and E are perpendicular lines. Let's see if we can find another pair. Well, here I know that 0.75 is the same as 3 over 4, and here we have 4 over 3. So let's multiply these two slopes together and see if they're perpendicular. And by that, I mean if their slopes multiply to get minus 1. So let's convert 0.75 into 3 over 4. We have a negative 3 over 4. We want to multiply that with 4 over 3. We're multiplying a negative and a positive, which gives us a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. And 4 times 3 is 12, which gives us a negative 1. That checks out, which means the two lines C and F are indeed perpendicular. Okay, so our rule for perpendicular lines is if we multiply their slopes together and get a negative 1, then that means the two lines make a 90-degree angle at their intersection and are perpendicular. So go ahead and practice this a little bit. You can actually multiply a few of the slopes together and see if we didn't miss anything, but I do believe these are the only two pairs of perpendicular lines. We just want to make sure we understand how we get this so we don't have to graph them, which once again, is time consuming, and we're only just be assuming that they're perpendicular. So we want to look at their slopes. So practice a few of these, and I'll see you soon.